and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Good morning, Cold Coffee Club. It is great to be back for episode 3 of this 5th season of the Cold Coffee Club. Ashley here, as always. This episode, we're going to do an interview with Lauren Dougherty. She is with the League of Women Voters of Houston. She's going to tell us what it's like voting like a mom. But before we get there, we are going to do our regular Cold Coffee Club fun stuff. First, I'm going to spill the tea. So, my win this week, as I'm recording, my oldest turned 11, and it is bringing up some feelings. So it's wild being mom to an 11-year-old. It's just, I'm like, how? I don't feel old enough to have an 11-year-old. Granted, I had him when I was 24. So I was on the younger end, in my opinion, but it is just so weird having a preteen, having like everything that comes with it. It's just wild to me. It's wild. But on that note, I'm also, realizing that as he's getting older, I'm also getting older. And, I'm just like feeling like the aches and pains of my age. And that is my fail. So while I'm celebrating my son's birthday and enjoying him being older, I'm not enjoying me getting older. So there's my win and my fail all lumped together. It's wild. It's just wild. And I know I'm not the only mom who feels this way, who's like still feels super young and feels just full of life, but then also like I slept wrong and I'm hurt, or I, played basketball with my kid and now my arm hurts really bad. And this never used to happen. So this is a whole new world for him, and for me it's just, great times. Moving on to our cream and sugar. So we love recommending things around the Houston area that we are just absolutely loving, that are giving us great memories, great experiences, all of that. And I have to highly recommend Bear Branch Park in the Woodlands. So I play volleyball at the recreation center there. Great facility, beautiful, clean. They have a great gym inside and just an awesome volleyball court indoors. But I did not realize how much was available outside of the recreation center, just Bear Branch Park altogether. So it has a great playground, lots of trees, which of course it's the Woodlands, so it's just beautiful. But so much going on. Basketball courts, a great outdoor basketball facility. There's a skate park. There are outdoor volleyball courts, gazebos to, if you want to bring lunch and just camp out there for the day, it's available to you. Absolutely beautiful. Like my kids kind of just explored the area while I was getting ready for volleyball, and they love it. And they were watching big kids at the skate park. They shot some hoops for a while. It is a great place, especially as the temperatures cool down a little bit, to just kind of venture and spend the day if you want to. There's so much going on. You could easily fill a day there. So definitely go check out Bear Branch Park. And if you're looking for a facility, I believe they have memberships as far as the rec center there. So you can, if you need somewhere to work out, or you can rent the courts if you want to get some friends together to play basketball or volleyball, that is available too. So highly recommend. Now, let's move into our interview with Lauren Dougherty. She was incredible. She had a whole lot of information and resources for Houston moms, and we've shared all that information in our show notes, of course. But let's dig into the interview with Lauren. All right, Cold Coffee Club. So we have a special guest today. We have Lauren Dougherty with the League of Women Voters of Houston. She's going to share with us some pertinent information about voting. I know that this is a time where With the state of the world these days, there's just so much going on. And if you are an overthinker like me, there's just, your brain is all over the place. You're like, I don't know how I feel about so many things. Like, where do I stand? What am I voting for? And I think the best way to overcome all that is to be informed. I think that can kind of alleviate some of the stress involved with voting, especially in 2023 and with everything just going on. So we wanted to get some information and share that with you. So that brings Lauren here. Thank you, Lauren, for being here with us. It's so great to have you. And just for starters, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've followed Real Moms of Houston for a long time. So I'm excited now that they're kind of our two forces are converging together. This is exciting for me personally. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the election that's happening. If you're not aware, right now, we're currently early voting is taking place now through November 3rd, and election day is Tuesday, November 7th. And the things on your ballot for this election will be things like the mayor for the city of Houston, the controller, who's sort of like the money person, like the CFO, and then the city council. And if you're outside the city of Houston, there could be a lot of other sort of, I think Bel Air is voting on a mayor. In other counties have all sorts of elections taking place that are really more what we would call municipal elections. And that's just a fancy word for local elections. So you could see a school bond or a school board trustee election happening as well. And I just want to talk about how you can get some information to sort of demystify these elections, understand who's running, so that you can participate in the democratic process. And luckily, the League of Women Voters of Houston, we've been around since 1920 in Houston. We have over 100 years of nonpartisan civic engagement advocacy. And our big focus is just trying to help more voters in Houston feel confident about going to the polls and casting their vote. We are strictly nonpartisan. We just want to give you unbiased information so that you can digest it, cut through the noise, and select candidates that reflect your personal values. To do that, we have been printing a physical, have it right here, voter's guide for decades. This one was printed in partnership with the Houston Chronicle. And then what's really exciting is this year, for this election, we have built a new website, HoustonVotersGuide.org. And we've also produced our voter's guide in digital format. You can check it out as a book on Libby. You can download it as an ebook or an audiobook. And this is through partnership with the Harris County Public Library, who just shout out to them. They are the nicest, most wonderful people. And they have been such great partners with us on this project. And then we've also, again, we've recorded it in audio in English and in Spanish. So you can listen to it, when you're walking the dog or you're on your commute to work, through a playlist on SoundCloud. So we're just trying to increase that accessibility by putting the content where people are just naturally going anyways to get their daily music, news, books, whatever.
Okay, awesome. And what kind of information can be found in that guide?
Sure. So once we figure out everybody that is declared that they're going to be running for office, we send out, usually like three or four questions, depending on the office. And we have a committee that really combs through these questions to make sure that they come across as nonpartisan, that they don't seem to be reflective of one particular political leaning. We send those questions to the candidates, and then we print them verbatim. There's no analysis or comment. And if the candidate types out a typo, we print the typo. We are not injecting any of our own viewpoints or our bias at all. So this is the way that you can just see exactly what does the candidate have to say for themselves. Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? And then kind of make decisions from there. And we do that for all candidates, from the mayor down to HISD trustee.
awesome. That's very cool. I love that it's available in so many different ways, which is very helpful.
Yeah, and also one more thing, sorry, that I want to mention as well is there's going to be other things on your ballot. Everyone in Texas will be voting on, there's 14 propositions to amend the Texas Constitution. And a lot of them are very difficult to read. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. And so even when I'm reading them, I was like, I don't really know exactly what this means, and I'm going to have to research it. But what our Houston Voters Guide does is it gives you sort of like a normal person explanation for what this proposition means. Yeah. And it also gives you some arguments for it and against it based on just consensus of what we are seeing on both sides to try to be fair so that you can understand why somebody would be for this or against this, because that is important to know both sides. Hopefully it's important to know both sides before you make a decision on something that you maybe otherwise don't know that much about.
Right, absolutely. That is the main stressor for me at times when it comes to voting, is like, I don't know what all this means. So, and it can be so overwhelming, and you certainly don't want to, vote against your true beliefs, but it's like, the wording is confusing and I don't know what I think about this. So that's insanely helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, they did an analysis, and it was, they kind of like rate the readability of some of the propositions, and a lot of them are like college level, which, is unfortunate because that kind of disenfranchises a lot of people. Like, how can you vote on things that you don't understand? And to assume that everybody to write it as if you have a legal degree, right. Makes it difficult. And I think that's what keeps people from voting. And I saw this really interesting comment made by somebody, and she was saying, as a millennial, like, making sure that I'm doing the right thing and I'm really reflecting my beliefs is so important to me. And I would rather not vote than vote against something that could unintentionally do harm or be the wrong choice. And, I'm an elder millennial myself, and that really resonated with me as well. And I understand that that's a reason too why people just sort of sit out on voting, is they'd rather, just not make the choice at all than potentially contribute to a bad choice. Yeah. However, the problem is that, in our past mayoral election, only 12% of registered voters in Houston voted. So when we say that, oh, this was who was elected, I mean, they're only really reflecting the votes of about 1 out of 10 people, and is that really what a solid democracy looks like? A democracy should really be representative of everybody. And while we know that that's probably not a realistic goal, that we're going to get 100% voter turnout, we want to keep increasing that number so that our leadership truly reflects the people that live in Houston.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. Yeah, for sure. And so before we started recording, you mentioned that you are a mom, and I know that, most of our listeners are moms. Give us a little insight as to how the voting process works for you as a mom, how you handle your beliefs as a mom, your hopes and dreams for your children when you go into voting, how that all kind of pans out.
Sure. Well, I'll give some backstory just to explain like how I kind of ended up here in the first place. And it all started with me being a mom. I hit the ground running in our school's PTO as the fundraising chair when my son started kindergarten, and ran myself ragged along with all the other amazing women that I was volunteering with. And while we did amazing things and accomplished a lot, it was like, wow, even raising $100,000 is barely a drop in the bucket, for what our school was really lacking and needed to kind of be more functional or to fill in some funding gaps. And that really opened my eyes to, we can sell cookie dough and have carnivals all day long, but we're not going to see like real change or real solution to these problems until, some of the policies impacting our schools change. So from there, I just, like you said, I wanted to know everything. And so I was researching how all of this works and kind of accidentally became a Texas public education funding expert, which, I didn't see happening. Right. And, from there, you just kind of realize like what's important to you. And I think that women probably underestimate how much they actually already know about like government and their communities, and how that really is, they are way more involved in civic engagement than they probably realize. If you take your kids to the park, I bet you know more about that park than a lot of the people in the government who are voting on it and making rules about it. Or your local library. If you rely heavily on those services for your children, or just your day to day, like, and you love the activities and you see you see how important those services are and how much it enriches your children's lives and the lives of all community members. Those are the things that, like, that's the government right there. And you realize that, when it comes to people who are running for school board, I can tell you there's a lot of moms volunteering in schools that understand more about what's happening in the schools than the people who are running to be a school board trustee. And so that's where I think women should take ownership of the fact that, like, if you're running your family, you're already a leader. We are smart and we can do hard things. And if we just think about this as taking off like a small piece at a time, let's say if your children, my son receives speech therapy in school. And because of that, I was exposed to the special education process and ARD meetings, and anybody who's listening to this and relates to that knows, like, that is all based on law and things that happen at the state and federal level. And you end up with like a small law degree in that, because it impacts your kids. And that's what makes it matter so much. Yeah. So anyways, what I would say, how you can get started is, one, just commit to vote. Just make it a priority. Say, I'm going to vote in every election. And that's so important. And maybe, you're not going to feel 100% confident every single election about what you're voting for, right. But there are resources. And if you commit to vote, time and time again, studies show that one of the number one predictors of a child's or a young adult's likelihood to become a voter themselves is seeing their parents do it, and sort of if they're coming from a family culture of voting. Yeah. And, so one thing I would love to see is, like, if your child, you have a senior in high school, help them, make sure that they have all the ID to register to vote. Make sure you figure out is there going to be an opportunity at their high school. And, I have 2 young boys, so they're wonderful people and they have great intentions, but I don't know if they would have the initiative to figure out all of this on their own, right, when they grow up to be teenagers. Yeah. And, kind of like, that's what parents are for. We're there to help get them past the finish line, right? Step in, fill in that gap, and make it a big deal. Maybe the first time they vote, you make it a milestone in your family. You celebrate it. Say, oh, the first time you vote, we're going to go celebrate afterwards by going to a nice dinner or doing your favorite activity, whatever it may be. Because as somebody that registers kids to vote in high schools, I can tell you, it is so different from when we were growing up. I felt like everyone sort of knew, oh yeah, when you turn 18, you vote. And now when you're going to these high school lunches and you say, hey, would you like to register to vote? A lot of teenagers look at you and it's like, they don't know what you're talking about. Right. They're just clueless about it. And I don't blame them, at all. It's not their fault. But we have to do a better job of, I think, as parents, as a community, of helping children like understand their role in, civic engagement and the whole democratic process, so that one day they can grow up to be the leaders that we need in our communities to make positive changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Leading by example is so important. So important.
The most important thing to know is, how do you vote, right? Yeah. So that's what I want to refer everyone back to our website, HoustonVotersGuide.org. From there, you can see what are all the voting locations throughout the county. Because, before it used to be, oh, you have to go to your polling place, right? Well, now you can go vote at any polling location in Harris County. For early voting right now, there's 68 of them. And, if you go to our website, you'll find a place that refers you to harrisvotes.com. And it's just an interactive map where you can see what's the closest location. And maybe it's not the closest location in your house. Maybe it's like, oh, hey, I'm at work today and I'll go during my lunch break. Yeah. On election day, there's going to be over 700 polling locations. So you'll have a lot to choose from. Most neighborhood, if you have a neighborhood school, a lot of times that will be a voting location. Churches, a lot of times, libraries, places like that. So one, figure out where you're going to vote. Two, make sure that you have the required ID.
Okay.
So we have a place on our website where you can do that just to make sure. And three, if you're using our voter's guide, what I would say, because there are so many things on the ballot, just like there were in the midterms, there were all those judges, if anyone voted, you could remember. Print out a sample ballot from harrisvotes.com. Again, you can just find that through our website as well. And print that out, go through our voter's guide, and you can make notes. And you can take that into the polling location with you. You can refer to it as you're casting your vote on the machine. Because keep in mind, you cannot have your cell phone out while you are voting. Okay. So that's probably something that is actually should have set up front. Is if you're making notes on your phone, or you're like, oh, I'll just pull up the voter's guide on my phone and scroll through that while I'm voting. You're not allowed to do that. It's against the law. And not like they're going to take you away in handcuffs, but they will immediately and politely ask you to put your phone away.
Right. Good to know. Yeah. And it's so interesting. When I was a young voter, I thought you had to go to a specific location, and you, especially when I was a new mom, I was like, you can't bring kids with you. You must not be able to do that. Like, I thought all these rules existed that turned out, I was like, it's fine. Just go. Like, don't take your phone out. Yes. But like, you can bring your child if you need to. You can prepare and have a cheat sheet if you need to. Yes. Like, do all these things to get ready, because I was literally paranoid. I was like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm going to go to the wrong place. I'm going to break the rules.
Ashley, you sound just like me. You're a research-oriented rule follower.
Yes,
I love it.
Absolutely.
In that vein, I will say the one thing that you also can't do is you can't wear or display anything that's sort of like campaign related or about anything on the ballot. So you can't wear a campaign t-shirt for the candidate that you like, or anything like that. So you can just stay away from that. If you are concerned that when you show up to vote that somebody is infringing upon your right to vote, that does happen. It could be because an election worker just simply, doesn't know the law, or is confused about something, or just wasn't sure. There are resources, 866 our vote, to just call. And there's all sorts of people that want to make sure to help protect your right to vote, make sure that nothing stands in your way. If you're voting with a disability, there's some new laws that were passed in the last legislative session that make sure that you have access to curbside voting, or even that you can kind of go to the front of the line, if standing in line to vote, or waiting in line to vote, could just be difficult for you in any way. And the election workers should be trained and be able to help you with that as well. And actually, I think take your kids. I take mine whenever I can, because I want them to understand. I want them to want to develop core memories in their brains so that one day they can just say, oh, my mom would take me to vote every year and blah, blah. And they'll probably not remember any of it. But, eventually, somewhere deep down, you're going to be building this awareness with them that at the very least, this is just kind of a regular, boring part of life that you just got to do.
Yeah, you just got to do it. Well, this is awesome. This is so helpful. So many great resources, which I will put in our show notes for this episode. We will link that there. And I love what y'all are doing to have a resource that is not taking any sides and is not, trying to push you in one direction. It's so important to have that and to have information at your fingertips, because there's so much information out there. There's so many different things, and you have to go search for it, and well, no, I don't want you to preach to me or whatever. I just want to know the facts. What can you give me? And I absolutely love what you're doing and the information you're sharing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully in the future, when there's more elections, if there's any questions, the moms in your community have, we would love to answer them because, we've been around for 100 years. We're not going anywhere. And we just want to keep, moving forward in the next 100 years to just get more and more people across Houston activated and part of the democratic process. But thank you so much for having me today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much for your time, and everyone get out there and vote.
Absolutely. HoustonVotersGuide.org.
Perfect. All right. Well, Lauren shared so much incredible information and resources with us. And, I don't know about you listeners, but I feel so much better about the voting process. Like I mentioned, I get so overwhelmed with all the information, and it's great to have a nonpartisan resource available that can just kind of help walk us through what we're voting for, what we, like Lauren said, we don't want to make the choice that doesn't align with what we believe in. And, it can be such a stressful experience, but hopefully all the information she shared with us will make it less stressful for you. Vote like a mom, y'all. All right, let's dive into our Houston Moms House Blends. Now, this is where we spotlight some of our favorite posts on the Houston Moms site. These are posts that at least I am loving this week. I have two. One is just a quick reminder that every week Houston Moms posts an updated family-friendly things to do in Houston this weekend. Every week there are new events going on, new places to go, things to see here in Houston, and Houston Moms has your calendar for the weekend covered. So if you need to keep those kiddos busy, if you want to do something that everyone is going to enjoy, head over to our site and check out that list. Every week. We will never let you down. Also, there's a fun post by Becca Slocum called Fall Themed Date Night In with recipes. And so these are great ideas for a fun date night with your significant other, where you don't have to go anywhere. You can do some, put in a quick HEB pickup order and, bring all that home. You can cook together these great recipes, a few drinks that look amazing, and they're all fall themed. And, this is just a great way to jump into the fall season and have some fun with your person at home. A lot of us are kind of too exhausted to go out. I know I'm one of them. As much as I talk about the family friendly things to do in Houston post, I don't want to go out all the time. And it's really nice to have these kinds of ideas where you can stay in and have a good time. So check out that post. Again, it's fall themed date night in with recipes. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up with a see you later caffeinator. This is just a quick fact that I thought was really interesting. As of 2020, Texas now has nearly 17 million registered voters. Now, that's great. And there was a huge influx in registered voters after the 2008 presidential election. But like Lauren mentioned, there's a small percentage of actual voters. And so it's just a great reminder that so many of us are registered to vote, but we're not actually exercising our right and going to vote. So, of course, we encourage you to get out there and vote and, make sure that you're informed and then use your voice to cast that vote and, make that choice based on what you believe in and what you think is right for Houston. So just get out there and vote, y'all. Thank you so much for joining the Cold Coffee Club, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.